The Wolf King, a fantasy romance. Summary. Princess Aurora had always felt trapped by the gilded cage of her royal life. Born into the opulence of her kingdom, her days were carefully structured by duty, etiquette, and expectation. Every glance, every word, every choice was meticulously monitored, leaving her little room for the person she truly wanted to be. And the worst of it all, an arranged marriage loomed ahead, binding her to a man she did not love, a union meant to strengthen the fragile political alliances of her family. Aurora longed for freedom, not the empty freedom of rebellion, which would bring ruin to her family, but the kind of freedom that allowed her to live on her own terms, to breathe, to act, to make mistakes, and to love without fear. Her secret life was one of quiet defiance. She spent her evenings wandering the castle gardens under the cover of night, feeling the cool breeze brush against her skin as she imagined a life far away from walls, tapestries, and the never-ending gaze of courtly eyes. But even these small acts of rebellion could not prepare her for the night that would change everything. The night before her wedding, a dark and forbidden spectacle drew her attention. A dogfight unlike any other. In a hidden arena, captured werewolves were forced into battle, their strength and savagery twisted into entertainment for the cruel and power-hungry. Aurora's heart ached at the sight of these majestic creatures being forced to kill or be killed. Among them, a young wolf caught her eye. There was something different about him, a spark of intelligence, a flicker of fear, but also of defiance. Against her better judgment and every command of etiquette drilled into her since birth, she intervened, saving his life. It was a reckless act, but one that set the wheels of fate into motion. The alpha of the wolves, a creature both feared and respected, had intended to punish the young wolf for defiance, perhaps even to kill him outright. But Aurora's interference marked her in the eyes of the alpha. She became more than a mere human girl. She became a symbol of power, a potential key to tipping the scales in the brutal war between humans and wolves that had raged for generations. That night, the alpha escaped from the arena, a storm of fury, claws, and unyielding strength. In a shocking and terrifying move, he kidnapped Aurora, whisking her away from the life she had known and into the rugged, untamed lands north of the border. Lands where the once warring werewolf clans were beginning to unite under a single commanding force. Aurora's first moments in the wild were a blur of fear and disbelief. The world beyond the castle walls was harsh, raw, and breathtaking. The air was thick with the scent of pine, earth, and something wild that stirred something deep inside her. The alpha, tall, imposing, and frighteningly beautiful, kept his distance, but his presence was impossible to ignore. He was not the beast that legends had painted him to be, though there was a danger in his eyes, a wildness that promised both protection and peril. He believed that Aurora held the key to winning the war against humans. She was more than a princess. She was a symbol, a potential pawn in a conflict that spanned centuries. And yet, as they were forced to spend time together in the harsh northern wilderness, the walls Aurora had built around her heart began to crumble. She began to see the alpha not merely as a captor, but as a being of depth, strength, and unexpected honor. For his part, the alpha, whose name, whispered only among the wolves, carried weight and command, found himself torn. He had known humans only as enemies, as fragile creatures whose treachery and violence had cost the wolves dearly. But Aurora was different. She was kind, courageous, and unafraid to look him in the eye, even when her life hung in the balance. Her spirit intrigued him, confounded him, and much to his own surprise, drew him in ways he had never anticipated. He found himself wanting to protect her, even at the risk of alienating his own kind. The days in the northern lands were perilous. Aurora learned quickly that the wilderness held dangers she had never imagined. Treacherous terrain, wild beasts, and rival wolf factions who did not welcome her presence. The Alpha trained her in ways she had never expected: how to move silently through the forest, how to observe without being seen, how to survive in a world where strength often dictated justice. At first, these lessons were tense and fraught with mutual distrust. She was a princess, after all, raised to rely on advisors and guards, not to track prey or survive in the wild. Yet gradually, under his guidance, she discovered an inner resilience she had never known existed. The tension between them grew, charged with danger and desire. Aurora could not deny the pull she felt toward him, the dark intensity in his gaze, the protective way he moved around her. The moments of unexpected tenderness that punctuated the harshness of their lives. And the Alpha, in turn, found himself captivated by her defiance, her intelligence, and the fearless compassion she displayed toward both humans and wolves alike. Each interaction, every fleeting touch or glance stoked a fire neither could fully control. But love was complicated in a world at war. The humans saw her as a pawn who had been stolen, while the wolves were divided in their loyalty, suspicious of both her motives and the Alpha's judgment. Allies became enemies in a heartbeat, and the line between friend and foe blurred. Betrayal lurked in shadows, and even within the wolf clans, loyalties were fragile. The Alpha had enemies among his own, those who resented his growing attachment to Aurora and feared her influence over his decisions. And Aurora, though growing stronger and more resilient, knew that every choice could bring ruin to herself and those she had left behind. The romance between Aurora and the Alpha was intense, passionate, and fraught with peril. Every stolen moment, every reluctant brush of hands carried the weight of danger. Their attraction was forbidden. Human and wolf, princess and Alpha, enemies by birthright, but it was undeniable. In their shared isolation, they discovered more than physical desire. They discovered trust, vulnerability, and a connection that transcended species and bloodlines. Yet for all the passion, both knew the consequences of surrendering completely to their feelings. One wrong move could ignite war, topple alliances, and destroy everything they held dear. As Aurora spent more time with the Alpha, she also began to understand the complexity of the wolf world. Not all wolves were ruthless predators. Many were honorable, loyal, and capable of deep bonds. She saw the Alpha's leadership, his sense of justice, and the sacrifices he had made to unite the clans. In return, the Alpha learned that humans were not merely fragile creatures to be conquered or feared. They too were capable of courage, compassion, and profound loyalty. This mutual understanding deepened their bond, blending respect, admiration, and desire into a potent force neither could. Yet danger was never far. The northern lands were fraught with threats, from rival wolf factions, treacherous humans seeking to reclaim their kidnapped princess, and monsters that lurked in shadow. Each day brought new challenges, testing Aurora's courage and the Alpha's leadership. Their love grew under fire, tempered by the harsh realities of survival and war. Each victory and setback strengthened their connection, even as it threatened to tear them apart. The climax of their journey came when alliances shifted and long-hidden enemies revealed themselves. Betrayal struck from unexpected quarters, forcing Aurora and the Alpha to confront not only external threats but the vulnerabilities within their own hearts. Aurora faced the ultimate choice: return to the life she had always known, a world of safety but of duty-bound constraints, or embrace the wild, dangerous, and passionate life she had discovered with the Alpha. Each path carried sacrifice. Each decision bore consequences that would ripple through both human and wolf worlds. In a moment of reckoning, Aurora's courage and compassion became pivotal. She acted not just for herself, but for the unity of humans and wolves alike. The Alpha, inspired by her bravery and moved by the depth of their bond, made choices that defied tradition, challenged prejudice, and risked everything for love. Together, they confronted enemies on both sides, navigating a battlefield of politics, betrayal, and bloodshed. Their combined strength, intelligence, and trust became a force capable of reshaping the future, even as danger pressed from every direction. Ultimately, The Wolf King is a story of transformation, of a princess who discovers her inner strength, a wolf alpha who learns the power of compassion, and two souls who find love in the most unlikely of places. It is a tale of forbidden attraction, of enemies turned lovers, and of the enduring power of trust and courage in the face of insurmountable odds. Aurora and the Alpha are forever changed by their journey. Their story asks profound questions. What does it mean to belong? What is worth fighting for? And in a world divided by war and prejudice, can love truly conquer all? The novel closes on a note that is both thrilling and tender. Aurora has grown into her own as a leader and as a partner. The Alpha has softened without losing his strength, proving that love and power can coexist when built on respect and understanding. Together, they have survived the bloodshed, outwitted enemies, and navigated the treacherous waters of a forbidden romance. The war between humans and wolves is not fully over, but with the bonds they have forged, there is hope for a future where both species might coexist. Readers are left with the resonance of a love that defies boundaries, a story where courage meets passion, and where the wildest forces, both human and supernatural, can find harmony. For fans of fantasy romance, werewolves, enemies to lovers arcs, and forbidden love, The Wolf King delivers a gripping tale that combines thrilling adventure, heart-stopping tension, and a romance that lingers long after the final page. Aurora's journey is one of self-discovery, empowerment, and passion. The Alpha's story is one of leadership, loyalty, and the transformative power of love. Together, their tale is a masterful blend of fantasy, danger, and romance that will captivate readers who crave a story as fierce as it is tender, as thrilling as it is intimate, and as wild as the lands it explores. With vivid landscapes, multi-dimensional characters, and a romance that sizzles against a backdrop of war and peril, The Wolf King is a novel that will enthrall fans of adult fantasy romance. It is a reminder that even in worlds divided by fear and hatred, connection, trust, and love can create change, and that sometimes the greatest power lies not in strength alone, but in the courage to love boldly, against all odds.